The rise of the Raptor. For nearly 3 decades, one aircraft ruled the skies with an iron grip. The F-15 Eagle wasn't just America's champion, it was an unstoppable force that had never tasted defeat. From the sands of the Middle East to the skies over Europe, the Eagle compiled an astounding combat record. 104 air-to-air victories, 0 losses. In the cockpit of an F-15, pilots felt invincible. They were the undisputed masters of their domain, commanding a fighter that could outrun, outclimb, and outfight anything that dared to challenge it. But by the late 1980s, storm clouds were gathering on the horizon. The Soviet Union had been watching, learning, and developing. Their new MiG-31 could fly higher and faster than the Eagle. Their Su-27 could turn tighter, accelerate quicker. Most concerning of all, hidden behind the Iron Curtain, Soviet engineers were working on something that could change everything. The MiG-1.42, their own 5th-generation fighter. For the first time since its introduction in 1975, the F-15's crown seemed to be slipping. The U.S. Air Force knew they needed more than just an upgrade. They needed a revolution. What emerged from their development program would rewrite the rules of aerial combat. The F-22 Raptor was born, and it brought capabilities that seemed to belong more in science fiction than reality. Imagine an aircraft so powerful that its engines could generate 70,000 pounds of thrust, enough raw power to push the massive fighter to supersonic speeds without even using its afterburners, while F-15 pilots had to engage fuel-guzzling afterburners just to break the sound barrier. The Raptor cruised effortlessly at Mach 1.5. Those incredible engines fed into thrust-vectoring nozzles that could redirect their massive power in any direction, letting the F-22 perform maneuvers that would tear any other aircraft apart. But raw power was just the beginning. The Raptor's true revolution lay in its ability to be virtually invisible. Its radar cross-section was so small, about the size of a marble, that enemy radar operators would have better luck spotting a hummingbird at midnight. This wasn't just an improvement over the F-15. It was like comparing a whisper to a thunderclap. Even today, with stealth technology having advanced for decades, the F-22 remains in a class of its own, 15 times stealthier than the advanced F-35, and an astounding 100 times harder to detect than China's latest J-20. The moment of truth came in 2002, in a classified exercise that would become legendary in fighter pilot circles. 4 F-22s, still in testing and not yet operational, faced off against 12 of America's finest F-15s, flown by some of the Air Force's most experienced pilots. What happened next sent shockwaves through the military aviation community. In less than 2 minutes, about the time it takes to brew a cup of coffee, all 12 Eagles had been shot down. The F-15 pilots never even knew what hit them. The Raptors had remained completely invisible until the moment they struck, demonstrating a level of air dominance that redefined what was possible in aerial warfare. The king was dead. Long live the king. The fall from grace. The dream of air superiority had never seemed more attainable than when the F-22 first took to the skies. The Air Force had planned for a fleet of 750 Raptors, enough to replace every F-15 in the inventory and ensure American dominance for decades. But as the saying goes, reality has a way of shooting down even the most carefully laid plans. By the late 2000s, the Raptor's limitations began to surface. Despite its incredible speed and maneuverability, the F-22's combat radius of 407 to 600 miles proved inadequate for the vast expanses of the Pacific theater. Particularly concerning was its short range when supercruising, which forced it to rely heavily on aerial refueling, a significant vulnerability in contested airspace. The F-22's advanced systems, once revolutionary, became increasingly difficult and expensive to upgrade. Its avionics, frozen in early 2000s technology, fell behind the latest F-15 models. Most notably, the Raptor lacked an infrared search and track system, a capability that had become standard on modern fighters. Even more surprising was its absence of helmet-mounted sights, forcing pilots to point the aircraft's nose directly at targets to achieve weapons lock, a limitation that the F-15 had overcome years ago. The stealth technology that made the F-22 nearly invisible to radar proved to be a double-edged sword. The radar-absorbent coating was so sensitive that simply opening maintenance panels could damage it. Every time technicians needed to access the aircraft's internals, a common necessity for modern fighters, they risked compromising its stealth capabilities. For every hour the Raptor spent dominating the skies, it spent 42 hours in maintenance, with half that time dedicated solely to maintaining its delicate skin. The F-15, by comparison, required just 19 hours of maintenance per flight hour, a difference that dramatically affected both operational readiness and maintenance costs. The financial burden proved equally daunting. Each F-22 came with a $150 million price tag, nearly double the F-15EX's $80 million cost. Operating costs were even more staggering. Every hour of flight drained $85,000 from the Air Force's coffers, almost triple the F-15's $29,000 per hour. Meanwhile, the F-15 platform underwent a transformation that no one had anticipated. The new F-15EX Eagle II emerged as a thoroughly modern warrior, equipped with capabilities that sometimes surpassed its supposedly superior replacement. Its new AN/APG-82 radar, featuring advanced electronically scanned array technology, could detect and track targets at extreme ranges while being much harder to jam than previous systems. The radar was so advanced it could track high-speed targets as small as cruise missiles while simultaneously monitoring ground movements. The EX's combat capabilities were equally impressive. It could carry an arsenal of 12 air-to-air missiles on new outboard stations, with the potential to expand to an astounding 22 missiles in future configurations. Compare this to the F-22's internal weapons bay, limited to 8 missiles to maintain stealth. The Eagle II could also carry unconventionally sized munitions, including new hypersonic missiles up to 22 feet long and weighing 7,000 pounds, something the F-22's internal bays could never accommodate. Even in terms of battlefield awareness, the F-15EX brought new advantages. Its advanced Legion pod allowed it to detect and track targets passively using infrared, while its modern cockpit featured an all-glass display system that could synthesize data in ways the F-22's aging interfaces couldn't match. The Eagle II's ability to network with other aircraft and share targeting data in real time, a capability the F-22 struggled with due to its outdated communication systems, made it a force multiplier in modern combat scenarios. The situation reached its critical point in 2023. Lieutenant General Richard Moore laid bare the harsh reality before Congress. The older F-22s lacked advanced communication systems, couldn't carry the most sophisticated weapons, and were devoid of the most updated electronic warfare capabilities. Upgrading just 32 of these aircraft would cost an eye-watering $3.5 billion, more than the annual GDP of some small nations, and would take a decade to complete. This astronomical cost wasn't just about money. It represented engineering hours and resources that would have to be diverted from other critical programs. The Raptor, designed to dominate the skies well into the 21st century, found itself at risk of being outmaneuvered not by an enemy fighter, but by the very technological progress it had once embodied. The King of the Skies faced an uncertain future, while its predecessor had found new life in the modern age, offering similar capabilities at a fraction of the operating cost. The strategic pivot. Just when it seemed the F-22's story was ending, the world changed. In early 2024, the Air Force made a stunning announcement that sent shockwaves through the defense community. An $11 billion modernization program would breathe new life into the Raptor fleet. This wasn't just a routine upgrade. It was a complete reversal of the retirement plans that had seemed inevitable just months before. The catalyst for this dramatic change came from a series of classified war games that painted a sobering picture of modern air warfare. In simulated conflicts over Taiwan, neither American nor Chinese forces could achieve the air superiority that had been the cornerstone of U.S. military doctrine since World War II. Every engagement resulted in heavy losses on both sides, and even America's most advanced fighters struggled to maintain air dominance. The strategic landscape had shifted dramatically. China's aviation industry had been working overtime, churning out J-20 stealth fighters at a pace that now dwarfed America's F-22 fleet. The J-20, while not as stealthy as the Raptor, represented a serious threat in numbers alone. More concerning was China's J-31, a carrier-capable stealth fighter nearing service that would extend their air defense umbrella far into the Pacific. The numbers told a story that military planners couldn't ignore. In the skies near Japan, Chinese military aircraft had become increasingly bold. Their incursions into disputed airspace had skyrocketed from 96 in 2010 to a staggering 675 in 2019. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, NATO fighters were scrambling more than once per day to intercept Russian aircraft, with 570 interceptions in 2022 alone. The message was clear. The era of uncontested American air superiority was over. The F-15EX Eagle II, despite its impressive modernization, couldn't fill the gap alone. Its advanced radar and electronic warfare systems made it a formidable fighter, but it lacked the one capability that had become crucial in modern air combat: stealth. No amount of electronic countermeasures could overcome its fundamental radar signature, a reflection dozens of times larger than the F-22's marble-sized return. Against the latest Russian S-400 and Chinese HQ-9 air defense systems, with engagement ranges exceeding 250 miles, the Eagle II would be detected long before it could bring its impressive arsenal to bear. What military planners realized was that they weren't just choosing between two fighters, they were choosing between two different approaches to air warfare. The F-15EX excelled at traditional air superiority missions, carrying more missiles and operating from established bases. But the F-22 could do something no other American fighter could: penetrate the most heavily defended airspace in the world, remain undetected, and strike with near impunity. Modern air defense systems had created bubbles of denied airspace that stretched for hundreds of miles. Inside these zones, conventional fighters, no matter how advanced, faced extreme risk. The F-22's stealth capabilities weren't just an advantage anymore. They were a necessity. While newer Chinese and Russian stealth fighters might match some of the Raptor's capabilities, none could match its combination of stealth, supercruise, and supermaneuverability. Even the F-35, America's newest stealth fighter, had a radar signature estimated to be 15 times larger than the F-22. This realization forced a fundamental shift in strategic thinking. The Air Force couldn't afford to retire its most capable penetrating fighter, just as the need for such capabilities was becoming critical. The F-22's limitations were real, but they could be addressed through modernization. Its fundamental strengths, its stealth design, its power, its maneuverability, were qualities that couldn't be replicated by any other fighter in the U.S. inventory. The Raptor wasn't just getting a reprieve, it was being recognized anew for what it had always been: the only fighter capable of guaranteeing access to the most heavily defended airspace on Earth. In a world where air superiority could no longer be taken for granted, that capability had become more valuable than ever. The Super Raptor emerges. The F-22's transformation isn't just an upgrade, it's a rebirth. The Air Force is about to turn its stealth fighter into something that even its original designers couldn't have imagined. Welcome to the era of the Super Raptor. At the heart of this metamorphosis is a revolutionary new low-drag tank and pylon system. This isn't just another fuel tank, it's a breakthrough in stealth technology. While current external tanks turn the F-22 into a radar beacon, these new tanks maintain the jet's ghost-like radar signature. When fuel runs low, they separate cleanly from the aircraft, leaving no telltale mounting hardware behind. The result? A 37% increase in range, pushing the Raptor's combat radius from 470 to 825 nautical miles. In practical terms, this means an F-22 taking off from Japan could now reach deep into contested airspace over the Taiwan Strait and return home, all while remaining virtually invisible. But range is just the beginning. New wing-mounted pods are about to give the Raptor a sense it never had before: the ability to see in infrared. These advanced IRST, infrared search and track sensors, will allow F-22 pilots to detect and track enemy aircraft without ever turning on their radar, a passive hunting capability that the F-15 has used to deadly effect for years. What makes these pods special is their stealth design. Using the latest radar-absorbent materials and careful shaping, they maintain the F-22's minimal radar signature while adding an entirely new dimension to its hunting capabilities. The crown jewel of this transformation is the integration of the AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile. This isn't just another missile, it's a hypersonic predator that can strike targets between 200 and 400 kilometers away while traveling at Mach 5. To put that in perspective, if launched from New York City, it could reach Boston in about 2 minutes, traveling so fast that modern air defenses would struggle to react. The missile combines multi-mode seekers with a long-burn rocket system, making it incredibly difficult to jam or evade. But perhaps the most revolutionary change isn't in the hardware, it's in how the F-22 will be used. The Super Raptor is becoming the tip of the spear in an entirely new combat formation. Imagine this scenario. A flight of F-22s slips undetected through enemy air defenses, using their enhanced range and stealth to penetrate deep into hostile territory. Their new IRST sensors detect enemy aircraft without giving away their position. Behind them, F-15EXs wait at a safe distance, loaded with up to 12 missiles each. The F-22s, acting as silent scouts, relay target data to these missile trucks. Meanwhile, F-35s provide additional stealth coverage and sensor fusion, while autonomous drones extend the formation's reach even further. By 2029, the $7.9 billion program will have transformed all 142 remaining combat-coded F-22s. Each Raptor will receive $72.6 million in improvements, nearly the cost of a new F-15EX. But what emerges will be far more than the sum of its parts. The Super Raptor will combine the F-22's unmatched stealth and maneuverability with modern sensors, extended range, and next-generation weapons. What we're witnessing isn't just the revival of an aging fighter. It's the birth of an entirely new approach to aerial warfare. The F-22 and F-15EX have moved beyond their former rivalry to become partners in a revolutionary combat system. Together, they present potential adversaries with an impossible choice: detect the undetectable or defend against the indefensible. The king hasn't just reclaimed its crown. It's rewritten the rules of the game entirely.